There we
Hello,
go.
Jonathan. I think we're
Greg,
live.
Greg, can you hear me? Greg,
I can hear you.
you seem
I'm
far
very far
away.
away.
Where are you, Greg?
I am. Well, I'm glad that you asked. I am not in Palm Springs right now,
Yeah.
but I am in, if you think of Palm Springs as a sunny place, especially this time of year, a place where people like to go in the winter and a place
Yes.
where people like to retire, I'm in another place very similar to Palm Springs.
Oh.
I am on the west coast of Florida.
The
I am a
west coast
Florida
of
man.
You're in Florida.
Yes, in
That's
fact, I grew up. It's funny. So I now live on the west coast of the United States. I grew up in Miami, in Florida,
Mhm.
and people in Florida, when they say the west coast, they mean Naples, Tampa, St. Pete. They mean where I am now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody in Florida thinks about the west coast of the U.S. But no, I am on the west coast of Florida in a small town called Punta Gorda, or
Punta
as we
Gorda.
like to say when we're translating literally, Fat Point.
Fat points.
Fat
Okay.
Point.
Nobody took
Yes.
offense to that. Just very
Not so
literal.
far. Not so far.
Yeah.
I stand in the street corner and holler it pretty consistently. Welcome to Fat Point. And nobody's taking offense. No, I'm here visiting my family. So my mother, my brother, my niece, and my sister-in-law all live here in lovely Punta Gorda. So I'm here visiting for a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's great. And you did this last year, right? So this is, do you do
I did
this
this
almost
last
every
year.
year? Is this kind of a thing now?
Well, yeah, it's sort of in this new version. Somebody's encouraging me to call it this new chapter of my life where I don't
Okay.
have a full-time job. And what work I do have, I can do virtually. Last year, I took a whole month and came out and visited for a whole month.
Yeah.
And what little tiny bit of work I had back then, I did virtually. This year, I'm just here for 2 weeks, a little bit more than 2 weeks, I think.
Mhm.
And what work I do have, I'll do virtually here as well. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
and you have to make this so that you can retain your Florida citizenship. This is
Yes, I
yes.
lose my ability to do things that are weird, that are standard in Florida,
Right.
if I don't occasionally come back and re-up my membership. Um,
Yeah.
and there are some, I will say, I lived in Florida for 25 years,
Hmm.
and but I have not lived here in a long time. But I will say that there are some things about Florida that I've just never seen anywhere else. We had lunch yesterday at a place that was right on the water, and there's sort of a look, there's a vibe that's kind of a
Hmm.
combination of sunshine and wind and alligators and boating, and beer, um,
Yeah.
and rum, like all of that
Ooh,
sort of together, with gravel and coral rock. It's a vibe.
that's cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the town you grew up in?
Not this town. No,
No,
my
you
mom has
said
lived in this
Miami.
town. Yeah, I grew up in Miami on the other side of the state. My mom has lived in this general area for probably 30 years at this point.
Okay.
So,
Right
yeah,
on. So you know all the ins and outs.
I know a few ins and outs. My brother
Yeah.
lives here now, so he knows way more than me. But for Florida overall, I'm sort of out of touch with the Florida vibe overall.
Hmm.
But I know enough to function. I can navigate when I need to in Florida, which is good.
Okay. Which is
Yeah,
now it makes me nervous to go because I think and I've been to a couple places, but I you go to for us and for the
yeah,
listener out there, if you've met Andrew and I, you know that we go for the party usually. So it's
they
Key
do. It's
West
true.
and it's places like that, right? So yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
just the parts of Florida that will accept crazy people like us. But
Yeah.
yeah, and Miami too, which is beautiful, but it certainly has its own vibe and I don't wear
Yep.
thongs anymore, so I can't go back. But
Hmm.
yeah. But
You can buy them at the airport, I think. When you're
you
coming in.
can.
Yeah, it's right at the
Yeah,
airport.
yeah.
Change at the thong changing station.
That would be so weird. Um, but yeah, it's right next to the photo booth. So you go in, try your thong
Yes.
on, get the 4 pack of photos, send them straight home. But Florida's great, yeah, and it does have its own
It
vibe.
is.
It's got a lot of
It
cool
does.
stuff and it's got a lot of funky stuff and yeah,
All
because
true.
you had said this. I think you kind of nailed this when you said this earlier today when we were talking. You have people from so many different areas of the Midwest,
Yes.
of New
Yes.
York, Philadelphia, New Jersey, like East Coast, Midwest, and native Floridians, and they're all coming down there to
True.
congregate and vacation and retire.
And retire.
Yeah.
It is a big area for retirement. and as I was, yeah, if we were talking about this, from my experience, kind of, if you sort of cut the country in half, and you've got, or more or less in half, think of the Midwest, so Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, even, and then Michigan, Ohio twice, and then
Yeah.
all the Northeast. That whole area, that whole heart of the country, kind of funnels down to Florida for vacation and retirement. So the Florida Panhandle, which is next to Alabama, and there's some beautiful
Mhm.
beaches along the Panhandle, and so that it is very often referred to by as the Redneck Riviera. So traveling to the Redneck Riviera is the Panhandle. So a lot of people will come down there, but then come a little farther down the state, Tampa and St. Pete are great cities and have grown and evolved in a great way. And then down closer to where, kind of where my mom is, all the way down to Naples is sort of a long grouping of retirement communities. Very often, they call them 55 plus communities because you have to be at
Mhm.
least 55 to live there.
Yeah.
And my mom has lived in these kinds of communities now for, oh gosh, 25, 30 years,
Oh, wow.
um,
Okay.
in different places. Yeah. And they are fascinating places to see and experience. And in
Oh, yeah.
fact, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the activities going on where my mom lives today, in fact.
Okay.
So she loves where she lives.
Yeah.
You had asked a question about the quality of the food. And I will say the food has been her only complaint.
Hmm.
And the complaint is probably not the thing that you think. Her complaint about the food is that it is too good and there's too much of it and she's gaining weight.
Oh.
And she puts the blame for that squarely on the facility. But
Right.
they have
That's funny.
activities during the day, lots of activities. So today, for example, in the morning at 9:30, there's an exercise class, which is great.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, there's a musical activity called Finish the Lyric
Hmm.
at 10:30. At 11 o'clock is axe throwing. At 2 o'clock is a cooking demo. And then 3 o'clock is happy hour. Now, I'm going to pause here for a minute,
Yeah.
Jonathan, because I saw your face. You think maybe you misheard me when I said axe throwing,
You
and
said
you did
axe
not.
throwing. Yeah.
I said axe throwing. So the assisted living facility that my mother works, excuse me, my mother lives in,
Yeah.
has an axe throwing activity today. She assures me the axes are plastic, but my brother and I believe we need to go and experience axe throwing with the seniors
I think this
at
is a
some point while I'm
must
here.
do, and there needs to
Yeah,
be there's no axe catching. I take it. This is just they're throwing it
not
at.
at least not
Okay.
today. If
Not
there's an
today.
activity for axe catching, it's hard to say axe catching.
Axe
It
catching.
starts to come out as something different if
Yeah.
I'm not careful.
Yeah.
But
And that
no,
sounds like
there's
a
no
body spray
axe
commercial. Yeah.
axe catching. It's the new scent by Axe
Yeah.
Body Spray.
It's basically what happens when I walk into any club. Yeah. It's axe catching.
So anyway, yes. So that's what's happening for me here in lovely Southwest Florida.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, it's
That sounds,
good.
and so she loves it there. She must be exhausted at the end of every day with all those activities. You
She
can just pick, you
opts
don't have
out.
to. Yeah.
You don't have to. She opts out a lot of the activities. She many of them she doesn't think are a great idea. She as much as the cooking demo, which today will happen immediately
Oh,
after
yeah.
the axe
Hmm.
throwing.
Hmm.
The nature of living in an assisted living facility, as she does, is she has a microwave and a refrigerator, but no stove. She can't cook
Yeah.
anything that she sees demonstrated today. So she believes that that is not the best way to spend her time. So she will opt out of
It's
the
like,
cooking demo.
here's all the things. Look at all the things you can't make. Yeah, that must be
Exactly. Yes. Right.
I know.
This is
Yeah,
so easy for other people.
for everyone else.
This
Next
particular
up,
dish.
yeah,
Yeah. Next up is a dish you're going to love. Well, you're not because you won't get to make it.
exactly. Can you smell that? Take one with.
Right.
That's a
Yes. That's all you
yeah,
get.
that's gonna be yeah. Um, yeah, right after that they do sumo wrestling and then basketball. All the things for the elderly.
Right. Exactly what you would expect.
Yeah.
Um, what about you? What's happening in Palm Springs since I'm so very far away?
Oh, well, there's been huge changes in the couple of days since you've
Oh,
left.
I was going to say it's been like 48 hours.
It's in 48 hours. Yeah, we actually nothing's changed. No, it's great. The sun is shining. We Andrew and I were messing around and decided to make some ramen. And we posted some pictures
Ooh.
up there. So you and I had talked about and had a short
Ramen.
discussion about some
Yeah.
of our favorite like prepackaged ramens. And
Yes.
we were going to do a ramen thing before you left, but with schedules and everything else, and
Lost track of time. Yeah.
you had appointments at the hairdresser. So anyway,
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's right. So we didn't get that done.
Manny's petties and yeah.
The Mannies and the Petties and the Manly Petties, and so we
Right.
had. But one of the things, so what we did is I wanted to make it as authentic towards the kind of delicious ramens that I would get at my favorite
Mm,
ramen houses, and
yeah.
so that starts with some prep work, right? Because obviously a
Yeah.
lot of it is planning and prep work when it comes to Asian cuisine, but also
Sure.
anytime I cook at all. So one of the things that is my kind of favorite thing when I get a really good ramen is that egg that they make, that kind of
Yeah.
jammy, soft boiled, but still
Yes.
good, and it's been marinated. I'm like, how in the world do you make these things? It turns out it's super easy. So it was a
Oh,
6 to 7 minute boil on an egg, ice bath to cool it, peel it, and then it goes in a Ziploc bag or whatever you like to marinate things in, with a portion out amount of soy sauce, mirin, and sake.
really?
Yeah, and that goes into the bag and it mixes in there, and it's in there for anywhere between 4 hours to 3 days. And so
And
we,
it's
of
peeled at
course,
this point, right?
it's peeled. Yeah, you peel it.
Oh,
It's
wow.
and then you toss it in there, and it takes that white, that white yolk, and it kind of browns it so it has it kind of soaks up
Right.
all of those flavors. But then you still have this jammy kind of somewhat
Yolk.
un yolk. It's not loose.
Yeah.
Like if you break it, it doesn't come out, but it's got that kind of that feel to it. Anyway, we made them, and then promptly left them for a full 7 days. So they said up to 3 days. We had it in for a whole week, and I eventually, like,
Wow.
I was like, I was at the moment where I'm like, oh no, those eggs. Like I had
Oh,
that
crap.
moment,
My
kind of
eggs.
like when
Yeah.
you're a kid and you have a test that morning and you wake up going, oh, I have a test today. So
Yes.
it was like that, but with eggs. So I pulled them out
Mm.
and put them in a separate thing, so they weren't in the brine anymore. Anyway, and then, not to over explain the ramen, but I was super proud of it. So I'm gonna explain. I'm gonna
Please
mansplain for a
do, because I
second.
love this. Yeah.
So again, we're still with mostly vegetarian. So the most non-vegetarian thing that we did
Hmm.
was this egg. And we decided to do a real mushroom-based stock. So I had done this with a risotto where I
Mm.
took dehydrated mushrooms and you rehydrate them in water. And then that water becomes
Yes.
this earthy, mushroomy goodness. And I used that for the base in a risotto. And I did the same as a base um, in our ramen. Then I added there's a vegetarian dashi stock. So dashi stock in Japanese cooking is used in lots and lots of different ways. They use it in tamago when they create the eggs for the
Mm.
sushi. They use it in ramens and lots of different things. It has a fish base. So it's kind of almost like a fish
Okay.
stock, but with the vegetarian one, it's different. So we ordered this. I didn't make
Oh,
this. We
yeah.
ordered it online. It came through the mail, as wonderful things do.
As
And
things
you just
do.
kind of,
Yeah.
and it has these little bags, and you boil it and for like 3 minutes, and you
Oh,
throw the
right
bag
on.
away, you got stock. So all of these
Nice.
things put
Oh, that's
together,
great.
then it was just all the vegetables we wanted. And so I had shiitake and porcini mushrooms that I rehydrated, and then I found some really lovely oyster mushrooms, those with the big flutes, and it
Yes.
thinks. And so those are striking. And then when they're heated up, they still have this kind of chewy consistency. It was fantastic. So those three mushrooms that were in there, fresh jalapenos, celery, peppers, of course the noodles, and everything else. And then the egg, because they had come out of
Oh,
the
man.
refrigerator, I put a little bit uh, of the broth in the bottom of the bowl. I just let the eggs sit there for the rest of the time the noodles were cooking, which is about 5 minutes. And then out they came, and voila. I think we'll never buy ramen again from a place.
What?
I think we figured out the recipe. I think we figured it out. It's pretty good.
That sounds amazing.
It was
Okay.
really good. Yeah. And there's
I definitely want to.
yeah, Andrew posted, or I posted Tasty Gents pictures. So they're up on Facebook already.
Yep. I saw those pictures and it looked amazing. And I when I was imagining kind of what we could do with ramen, what I have done recently is gotten this cheap packaged ramen and
Yeah.
then whisk an egg into the boiling water. You have to whisk it really
Mm.
fast so it tempers and doesn't turn to scrambled eggs. but
Yeah.
whisk an egg into boiling water, and it makes this really luxurious sauce. And then add the powder and whisk that into. So you've still got the soup, the like high sodium powder, but you add a little less of it. And then add the noodles and everything else in there. And so at that point, you've got the much more flavorful broth, but
Yeah.
still basically just working with the packaged ramen. But you guys went to a whole new level.
We took it to a different level, and I have not done that, but I have had ramens where they do that with the egg, and you're right, it gets a like a silky richness to the broth,
It does.
that's
Yep.
really good. In fact, that's something, and eggs, without going too far into it, across so many cultures, eggs is such an easy, cheap protein, that you'll find
True.
it in especially in places where it's tough to get other proteins, they just add it to
Yeah.
everything. So it's in the broth.
I love it.
In lots of countries where I've had pizza, right in the middle of the pizza is a fried
Oh,
egg. You cut up a
right
piece
on.
because you get some stuff, and it's cool. Eggs are great,
Nice.
man.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Eggs are great. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
We could do a whole episode on eggs.
No.
Oh man, we
30
could
minutes of
if we
eggs?
wanted to. I could do 30 minutes of eggs on my own.
I know. I could do it. I know. Yeah, they're
Well,
great.
so you mentioned this a minute ago. How is your extension of vegetarian cooking and eating going?
Wonderful. Yeah, we're still really enjoying it. Now,
So
Valentine's
great.
Day came and went, and of course, Andrea and I, we're not we don't really like being told when to love each other and how, but we do jump in on the old Valentine's Day train.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
As one does. Yes.
and we've mentioned this restaurant a couple times on this podcast before, but Bar Cecil, right out here in lovely
Yes.
Palm Springs, is a real winner. And we've been doing vegetarian. However, we broke with it for Valentine's Day. I had
Oh,
the halibut. She had the scallops, and
you had it. You had it for the halibut.
just for the halibut, yeah.
Just for the halibut.
He's here all weeks, people. He's here all week.
I'm here all week, people.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you. And
No, it's
Andrea had
great.
scallops.
The scallops, and everything was just perfectly done. And scallops are a test. Like, that
That's a
your
good point.
chef can do it right if your
Yep.
scallop, because you are a hair's choice away
Hmm.
from it's not done, it's overdone. And so if you can
Right.
do it right, and these were done right, that your chef
Very
is is
nice.
is on point, and these chefs are on point. So, and my
I
halibut was
love
just
that.
great. But here's the fun thing, right? And I like to people watch, and not in a creepy way, like I just like stare, but we were
Yes.
sitting next to a very young couple.
Mm.
It's like we sat down, and Andrew and I were going to be there and by the way, our reservation was at 5 o'clock. Like, it was early. It was a five
In
o'clock
the
dinner reservation.
afternoon?
Yeah, in
Wow.
the afternoon. I know. That's the only time we could get in. But we sat down and we talked to our waiter, and we're like, "Do you have a 90-minute limit like a lot of restaurants do for Valentine's Day?" And he goes, "Absolutely not." I'm like, "Thank goodness, because we're gonna be here
Oh,
for a while.
we're gonna
So
camp. Yeah,
we're gonna camp out, but we're gonna make it worth your while, because we're just gonna have a great time, and you're
that's
gonna
who we
love
are.
us." And there it
Yeah.
is, right? So, and we started off with drinks. Now, this place has, and for those who like them, it has an entire separate menu for martinis, and it explains all
Whoa.
the differences between dry and super dry, and wet, and this and it has all these different choices,
Right
and
on.
what those things mean, how much vermouth and what kind and everything else. So it goes into it. They have the home of the $50 martini. It's a $50
Really?
martini. It's got gold. I think a leprechaun dances it out to you. It's the whole production that goes into it. But they mix it there at the table, kind of like you would have homemade guacamole. You got your stirred, not shaken. Don't bruise it up.
Ooh,
A
not
stirred
shaking. Right.
martini,
Bruises the
right there at
gin.
the table. Yeah, that's what they say. So,
It's a line from
I did not get
Candyman.
that, by the way. We are on a budget,
I was
so
going to ask you.
no,
Um,
that
you
that
were
would
on a
have been my
budget.
whole
Yes,
dinner
we're on a budget
budget.
with
Like,
you.
I'm done with
Yeah.
that. That's it. I'm just going to drink
Did
this
you get to
slowly.
see somebody else get it though?
We saw somebody at another table get it, and it
That's
was pretty
pretty
cool,
cool.
pretty impressive. And I think
That's
I
pretty
think
fun.
once we're back, fully operational on the money train,
Yeah.
we might stop in for
The
one of
money
these,
train. I
because it's
know it
pretty cool.
well.
But this young couple was sitting next to us, and to be fair, Andrew and I are somewhat gregarious. and we talk to a lot of people.
It's
And
true.
so,
Yeah.
I mean, people with the waiter and everything else, like the waiter, his family, we at the end of the night, his family and his grandmother had given him his favorite cookies from Mexico as a Valentine's
Mm,
Day gift. He brought one out to share with us. Like
come
that's how
on.
much like we I'm not even kidding. And I'm like, you can't give this to us, your grandmother. He goes, I know, but you guys are whatever. So we had a great time. This couple next
See,
to
this is
us,
true. I'm
yeah,
just going to jump in and say, so listener, if you are listening to this and you are saying to yourself, this is Jonathan's overselling this. He's not. Jonathan and Andrea are out in when out in public. If you are anywhere within their orbit, you're going to want to hang out with them. They are fun, engaging, all of the things you want in other humans on the planet. And so, yeah, it does not surprise me in the least that this server gave up his favorite cookie from his grandmother to the two of you because you're amazing.
thank you. And that's exactly what I was
Yeah,
hoping you were going to
satisfy
say. So
everyone.
I
It's
appreciate
I know
that.
you asked
Thanks.
me to. You wrote that for me. I was
Did
just
I
reading
right?
off the card
Yeah.
you gave me.
Yeah. You nailed it. No, but this couple next to us, very young couple, said three words to each other. They were on their phones. They were in, she had dressed up and he had worn a sweatshirt and
Come on.
and sneakers, and she had done the whole thing, but she dressed up like young ladies think they're supposed to dress up for these things, and like that skirt's a
Sure.
little high and those shoes you can't
Right.
walk in those, like
Oh,
that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
but it's like, oh, you
Right.
did it, what, she really she took what she had, and she's probably on a budget as well, and she did the very
Yeah.
best. I'm like, way to go, girl. And then she got up and went to the bathroom. I turned to this guy and I'm like, is this a first date? He's like, no, we've been dating for a long time. I'm like, and I looked at him and I said, you know, everybody else is kind of dressed up, buddy.
Did you say
And
that?
absolutely,
You're my
yeah,
favorite.
because, well, because I said, hey, no, hey, if you want to make this not your last date, uh,
Right.
I don't know, a button-down shirt, something. So,
Yeah.
things like that. And because not that I want to get in everyone's
Good
business,
for
but there's just a
you.
point, and I think I'm 50. I'm at that age now where I'm just gonna start saying things to young men when they're just being dumb. And
See, I think that's a good thing. I think that there's a lack of just mentorship and role models in general. And I think regardless of what his reaction to you in the moment was, I'm going to bet he recalls the conversation and has thought about it, and I bet it's going to make a difference. That's what I
yeah.
believe.
Well, he was kind of sheepish and bashful, and he was like, "Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's just what I put on today." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So
Yeah,
anyway,
it's coming.
but it's
Yeah.
okay. You know what? And God bless them. I'm sure they're very happy and they're gonna have a great time. But the next couple that sat down next to us, because again, we were there for a while, so we rotated through some couples. Was this older couple from Chicago, and I thought we were outgoing. You could not stop
Oh,
this
you're
couple, but
kidding.
oh, it was great. No, and he was, yeah,
Right
yeah,
on.
and he was outgoing. He was chatting us up and asking about what we had and what, do we, hey, you guys from around here? Like, and it was just neat, like very Midwest, very cool, very, very fun. Great place, Bar Cecil, if you're ever in town. And if you know you're going to be in town and it's 3 months ahead, try to get a reservation because it's certainly worth it.
Oh, good plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now talking about restaurants, I recently went to Oceans. Have you been there?
Mm-mm. Where's this?
So it's over in Cathedral City. It is
Yeah.
on the other side of 111 from Trader Joe's. My friend visiting and I were going to go to the Korean fried chicken place that I love so much called Beach Please.
Yeah.
Um, and Beach Please was closed, so there was a restaurant in the corner called Oceans, and it's pretty unassuming and seafood themed, as you can imagine. It
Yeah.
was quite good. On a 1 to 5 scale, I'm going to give it about a 4. The
Okay.
the fish I got blackened barramundi,
What
and
is a
my what did
barramundi?
he told me it's
Is it a
it's
whitefish?
um it's a whitefish, pretty firm whitefish though, as opposed to like a sea bass that's really delicate. So this has got
Uh,
a little more heft to it, which I really like. Um,
yeah.
so the fish was excellent and
Mm,
prepared and delivered beautifully. The vegetables and mashed potatoes that it came with were just okay.
uh-huh.
The bread that they served beforehand was just okay, and the dessert was just okay. So
Mm.
nothing bad. It was a great meal, and I would go back again. But that I think that if they had upped some of the production value, for lack of a better term, on those other dishes, I think it would have been a knock out of the park. So,
Yeah.
but it was
It's
really great.
it's a funny thing when you can tell who what someone's good at. They're really good at meats, or they're really good at fishes. They're really good, and then
Yeah.
and it's kind of the star, and then everything else is like, oh yeah, we should probably put some other stuff on the plate.
Yeah. See, and also random steamed mixed vegetables that were fine. You know, mashed potatoes that had no apparent fat, which is like no apparent milk or cream
Milk or
or
butter.
butter
Yeah,
or other, you know, the other stuff that makes mashed potatoes sort of get kind of silky and smooth. They were very tasty. It had the feeling of being just straight potatoes that somebody had mashed.
yeah.
But it was very good. I would go back for the fish again. So
All right.
yeah. And it's right over there by where Mr. Claus is, which was also closed the
We
day that we were there.
almost went there because obviously this Tuesday was Fat Tuesday,
That's right.
and Wednesday was Ash Wednesday.
Yes.
Yes, and so welcome to Lent, right? So now
Oh,
for the next
thanks.
four,
It's nice to be
yeah,
here.
I don't know if you've, I don't,
If I deny
yeah,
myself something,
are you going to deny yourself anything this for the next 40 days?
no, I'm not. I'm not going to be denying myself anything.
Yeah,
I forget about it. I was not raised going to church of any kind, and
yeah,
so religious traditions in any faith I tend to miss or forget about because I just wasn't aware of them.
yeah.
So
And I also and I think it's mostly Catholics. I think mostly Catholics
I think so.
is the thing. And I was not raised Catholic. I have decided
Yeah.
to deny myself something though.
Oh, what is that?
Honesty.
Stop it.
For the next 40 days, I'm just going to lie about everything.
I love that about you.
Just going to say,
Look at you
or
leaning into it. Yes.
yeah, or as I like to say, my creative reinterpretation of reality.
That works the same too. Yeah.
Yeah,
But either way, as you say, honesty, I'm sure is, you know, something that you enjoy and that makes you feel really good about being human. And so denying yourself that is a great
yeah,
way to sort of remember the pain that I think we're supposed to remember pain. That's what Lent is for. Surely one of
yeah.
our listeners, the one listener we have, will perhaps look up Wikipedia and tell us what Lent is for.
I can't even spell
Some level of
Wikipedia.
denying ourselves.
Yeah,
That's going to be a problem. So,
yeah.
um,
Yeah, but Mr. Claus, we
that's all I
did
got.
not go. Yeah, we almost went, but we didn't go.
The other thing I'll tell you, this is sort of in keeping with your and Andrea's choice to be vegetarian. I'm spending time with my brother, who is
Yeah.
currently also not eating meat, and
Oh,
so I experimented a few weeks ago with drugs. Just kidding. I experimented with
cool.
making dumplings, Chinese dumplings. So I made
Oh yeah,
dumplings that had a chicken and bacon filling. They're very good. But
yeah.
want to make dumplings with my brother, so we're going to make vegetarian dumplings at some point while I'm here. And I was telling my mom, so this is my mom, you know, Midwestern roots, you
Yeah.
know, now lives in Florida, you know, not really what I would call an adventurous eater by any measure, and
Mhm.
trying to tell her that we're going to make dumplings. And and in her mind, dumplings that aren't part of chicken and dumplings or don't come with gravy, she can't really process that. So she kept
Right.
asking, like, and describing this process to her, these dumplings we're going to make. And she's like, and where is the gravy? The gravy goes, at what point do you get the gravy on? I said, I don't think there's going to be gravy in these dumplings. Maybe some soy
Yeah.
sauce. She's like, soy sauce.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be a new experience for her, which I'm excited about.
Yeah. And it's a familiar word, but just in a different take. I mean, the dumpling itself is
Exactly.
worldwide. Everyone makes dumplings because you drop them in something
Everyone makes
hot and it
dumplings.
boils and it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. What's not to like? It's
Yeah.
like
Also,
versions of pasta and versions of meat pies and things like that. Yeah, they're
yeah.
very, very common.
Yeah.
And
Well,
with
so
that
glad.
comment about meat pies, I have to say that we are at our mark. Believe it or
What?
not,
Wait,
we have
already?
eaten up. We believe it or not, we have. Yeah, we're at. I
30
believe
minutes.
we're at 29 minutes right now, based on when we
Okay.
started.
Okay.
Um,
Closing thoughts
so
then?
if we closing thoughts in Florida. Gorgeous weather. Had grouper yesterday. It's
Ooh.
a fish you really can't get anywhere other than Florida. And spending time with family. So I got nothing but good closing thoughts. What about you?
Yeah. 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 This place is a pale darker with you gone. But other than that, living the dream out here in lovely
The
Palm
city
Springs.
is in
And
mourning.
yeah, the city's, I know. Yeah, everyone's in black. We're just walking down.
Exactly. When will you return?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm glad for that because I always want people to be sad when I'm gone. Well, listener, if
Yeah.
you are still with us, if we didn't lose you somewhere in the midst of all of this, thank you again for spending 30 minutes of your life with us.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
always
thank you.
appreciate
And
that.
check us out on Facebook if you haven't done it.
Yep,
Email us at tastygens@gmail.com. You can dial Greg directly at 1-800-GOT-BEARD. And
that's true.
other than
Or you can
that,
reach Jonathan directly at 1-800 I'm fun to be around.
oh, thanks. Cool, man.
It's a long number. It's a long
That is
number.
a long number, yeah. Okay. Greg, great talking to you, bud.
Jonathan, always a pleasure. I'm so glad. And have we had a conversation about the fact that we're a year old yet?
Oh my gosh, we did not. That's right.
We did
Thanks
not.
to our executive director of calendars,
Mm.
Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
She informed us,
Back at Tasty Gents Towers.
Tasting Those Hours, she informed us we
Yeah,
just passed our 1 year anniversary.
it's true. So
Yeah.
we would love to hear from you about anything you want us to talk about, food or otherwise, about your congratulations for the fact that we've been here for a year, your desperate plea for us to move on to something else since we've been doing this for a year. We want to hear all of that. We're at Tasty Gents on Facebook. We're at tastygents.com on the web. And we are at, is it tastygents at Gmail? That's it,
That's
tastygents at
it. We got all of
gmail.com.
it.
So those are all the ways you can find us.
That's
All right, my
right.
friend, hold down the fort in the desert, and I will try to get you an alligator to bring back before I come home.
I want to see you ride an alligator for sure.
All right, I'm working on it.
All
All
right.
right.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.